For anybody else who wants to join, I'll kind of catch them up. So, what we're going to be doing today is creating and sketching chess pieces. So, the chess piece that I have is just a rook. Oh, hello. Okay. So, what you'll need is a pencil and erasers, maybe a sharpener, but I'll be using mechanical pencils. That's pretty much it. You'll be also needing some paper. Plain old white paper works just fine. Nothing too fancy. And the reference image is right here. If you need me to zoom in, zoom out, please let me know, and I'll just do that. This is just it. This is the plain chess piece. We'll be doing it in black and white. I know the image is kind of in blue and red, but we'll be doing our own interpretation of that. So I'll just give you a couple of seconds to kind of take a picture of it. I'll be also referring to it a couple of times throughout the lesson, and it will be back on screen every now and then, so don't worry. Okay. Am I good to move this away from the screen, or do we need a couple more minutes? Okay. Just a final zoom in, different angles. Okay. So now let's start with our sketch. So what I have here is my pencil, just a regular pencil, and I'll be drawing the first shape of our chess piece. So I'll draw the top part of it. And with that, what I'll have to do is kind of lightly, very lightly draw a circle. Kind of very lightly. Hopefully the camera is in focus. Let me know if the camera is out of focus so I can fix it for you. So I'll start with this circle very lightly. We're not doing any heavy-handed sketches quite yet. Then what I'll do is I'll draw kind of the hat part of it, and it looks like an upside down triangle. So kind of like this. And right now, it kind of looks a little bit mashed together, but that's fine. We'll kind of erase it and re-edit it. I think my circle is a bit too big, so I can always just erase that and go in over it with another pencil sketch. So let me finish this upside down trapezoid. Then what I will do is kind of draw the remaining body. I'll give it a curve. Okay. So this is just basic. Then what I will do is now create the base. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to catch up. Let's see if it's out of frame. Okay. So now that I kind of have everything mapped out, I can go back in and see that maybe the top part of my chess piece is too big compared to this. So I can kind of fix it. I'll just kind of go in with an eraser. So I just made my circle smaller. So I'll just erase the other lines so that way I don't commit to them. And now, as you can see, some lines are going through the bottom. So what I'll do is erase it. So I'll keep these ones. So I'll go in darker and erase these ones right here in the corner. So it should look something a little bit like this. Still a rough sketch, but we're kind of making our way into our final chess piece. So after we have the body, what we can do is now add little details. So we can add the curves at the bottom by drawing what is kind of considered a rectangle, but with rounded corners. So it's not too even, but we'll kind of fix that. So rectangle here with some kind of rounded corners, almost cylindrical. Then we'll add one right here. Then we'll move on to the upper piece. So for this piece, what we'll do is we'll kind of draw a skirt almost. It's still overlapping, and that's okay. We'll do the erasing later, but kind of just mapping out where our basic shapes will go. So after we added this first one, we'll add our second one, but I'll give you some time. I'll add our second skirt somewhere along here. And then add one here. So right now what we have is kind of three skirt looking shapes and then two rectangles with rounded corners. What we can do is now kind of go in with the rook's headpiece. Let the camera focus for a second. Okay. So for this one, what I just did is kind of drew a semicircle. So just this line right here. And then another one at the bottom. So you should have two. Okay. So with that, what am I going to be doing is now adding the grooves, so the lines. So I'm just going to add roughly 5 lines, and they don't have to be evenly spaced. So these 5 lines, I'll have one right here, here, and here, and then one last one over here. And from there, we'll kind of add on the design of the rook, but we're starting off basic and then building up on that. So with that, now comes the fun part where we kind of finalize our chess piece and kind of make it look like one. Because right now it just looks like a lot of shapes put together. So what we're gonna do is start at the bottom and erase any lines and kind of make them geometric and finalize them with our pencil. Okay, so I'm just going to take an eraser, kind of clean it up. Okay. And I'll connect the bottom piece to the body. Okay. Kind of going back and forth. I'm just fixing this line. Okay. Just drawing a line here. So now we'll go on to the second half of the body. And now I'm only going hard with my lines on the outer lines. So this one over here and then this one over here. I will now erase this line here. Okay, now that we worked on the two bottom pieces, we'll kind of work on the neck of this chest piece. So now I'm just making my line a bit more solid, making it darker than my initial sketch, my first sketch, making sure that I'm following the lines and making it darker. You'd start erasing this bottom line, this guideline. So now what I will do is work on the top part of the chest piece. So again, kind of what we did for the other sections, now we're just going in with our hard lines. So now still working on the top of the piece, making our lines pop out, pressing hard to make them black out. Now, doing what we did for those two pieces, we're going to do to this one right here. So just showing how we have some light lines and we have some dark ones. So now I'm gonna fix the top piece, the headpiece, because it's a little bit asymmetrical. It's a bit wonky. So what I'm gonna do is kind of edit my rough sketches. So I'm just gonna go over them and kind of revise, kind of make edits as to where I want the chess piece to go. So now I kind of have a lot of messy lines. I'll go over the lines that I want to keep using a heavy hand. Okay. And the rest I'll erase. So now I'll just use my eraser and erase the rough lines that I no longer wish to keep. So now only the dark lines remain. Kind of erasing any messy lines that we don't want to keep anymore. I believe this is the bishop. The chess piece is the bishop. So some have crosses, some have just this sphere on top. For simplicity, this will remain a sphere. So now what we'll do is fix the grooves of the headpiece, kind of go over our basic lines. So with this, the lines are not even. So what I will do, let me just stack up the pieces of paper. 1 second. So what I will do is erase any of the lines I do not want to keep. There you go. So I want to make my line thicker. Make sure you're connecting the pieces together. So the top and bottom lines should kind of be the same length. They should kind of be the same size. They don't have to be extremely perfect. We'll fix that. I have a chess piece right here that I'm drawing from. So now what we will do is kind of draw a dome on top. I'll close off this end, and I'll close off this end. And I'll actually decide to make my top a little bit smaller. I want the sphere to be a little bit just smaller. So I'll erase where the old ball used to be. Right. Let the camera focus. I'll connect this over here. And erase the old lines. See. So here's our reference image. Oh, and here is our drawing. We are still not done. But kind of getting a final look at it to see if it matches our sketches. I think it does. So now that we have finished the body, we still are working on the top, the head of it. So what we'll do is make that scalloped edge. So we'll do a small curve like this, and we'll repeat that for all of the edges. Just very lightly. We're almost at the finish line. So now what we will do is keep our curves and erase these lines. So erase this rough sketched line. Kind of clean it up. They acted as our guideline. Okay, and now that we did this to the bottom, we'll do it to the top. So this curvy line will turn into many curvy little lines. So kind of just giving you a couple of minutes. Very excited to see what everybody has. Okay, now what we'll do is the same process. We'll do that little tiny curvy line, still with a light hand. Something along the lines of this. So close to the finish line. So now what we will do is erase those first lines. So it should start looking something like this. It almost kind of looks like a ribbon. So now we'll kind of focus on this piece. And erasing, cleaning up. Okay. So now we will erase the bottom part. So it should look something a little bit like this. So it's a little wonky, but nothing that shading can't fix, so don't worry about that. We will fix that. It's not too big of a deal. Um, we're still working on the top piece, so I'll just add my rough lines. Kind of something like this. And then finalizing this. Kind of fixing this, fixing that. Kind of as we are working along, seeing if anything needs to be changed, if something is a bit too thick, too thin. Seeing if the neck kind of matches up with one another. Okay, so one last final look. Kind of matches up. Looks similar to our chest piece. Let me pull up my reference image. So now that we kind of have a final body of our chest piece, what we will be doing is adding small details. So we will be adding some sketch lines, some shadow lines, kind of shading for our chest piece to make sure that it doesn't look flat and 2D. And we roughly have just about 30 minutes to do so. So let's begin by shading. Okay, so we'll work from the top. So with the top, we'll just add a tiny, tiny light line, something like this. And a very, very light-handed line, something like this. And remember, if something that you're adding doesn't suit your liking, you're more than welcome to erase it and kind of start from somewhere else. Okay. Now, what we'll do is kind of just roughly scribble to add some shading to our chess piece. And then on the top, doing this again. And then on the neck. And then on the skirt. Make sure to go over them to kind of give them that blended look. So something like the corners or the outer lines of our chess piece are going to be very dark. And then we'll work our way into a lighter shade. So always going from dark to light. So again, something like this. And so now also doing it for the bottom parts. So just right over here. Just shading. So again, kind of roughly looks something like this chess piece right here. Trying to make it like this with the shading. And with roughly around 18 minutes left, we're almost done. We'll add the two other shadows to our chess piece that we saw in our reference image. So blending, blending, blending. I'm focusing on this side alone, kind of imagining if the light came this way. Right. Adding some shadows to the bottom. Really heavy on the bottom. So starting off with some light lines and then building up from there. Right. Almost across the finish line. So almost there. All right, with roughly 15 minutes, we can take some time in sketching the shadows of this bishop. So with that, it's going to be simple. What we'll do is kind of just lightly go around the piece. So we're kind of creating this shadow by lightly sketching, which will later on smudge. Right? So again, just very lightly following the shape of your chess piece. So noticing how this is curved, so I'll follow it, just like lightly sketching. So I'm lightly following it, giving it that illusion of a shadow, which creates depth and makes sure it doesn't look 2D. So for the bottom, I'll make sure it's a little bit bigger. So the final finished product should look something a little bit like this. Take your time to add some, little details to finalize your chess piece. So roughly something like this. We have a little bit of everything. We have the lights and the darks in terms of shading. And we started off with some basic shapes and then had created this finalized chess piece, this bishop. Kind of seeing it from all different angles. Seeing if anything needs erasing or fixing, or maybe I should add a little bit more shading or erase some. Kind of just finalizing. That's pretty much it in terms of our chess piece, our bishop. Seeing if it looks anything like it, resembles it. And with roughly 7 minutes left, if you're able to share any of your drawings, I'd love to see them. Nice! Patina! I love it. And Ying, I love it. And Wilson, I love it. I love all of your guys's. Nice.
Thank you.
Surely. I love it, Addie.
Thank
It's
you.
really lovely. Thank you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you. I'm
What-
not
what
sure if
is
I
your-
introduced my name.
Please, what is your name?
Farah.
Farah.
I'm not
Farah.
sure if you guys grabbed it at the front. My name at the
Farah.
beginning was Farah. So
Ah,
thank you
Farah.
guys. It was lovely teaching you this first lesson.
I will take picture about you.
Yeah, sure. Here you go. There you go. Here's a little chess piece.
Yeah, please. I